All right. Good morning. Tuesday morning. We just got back from Suncoast and we had an amazing time there. I'm sure you'll hear about it from some of your small group attendees. We had a great retreat. Pastor Tim had amazing 4 sets of messages. Worship was great. And yeah, we had a great experience with just the opportunity to connect with Jesus on a very real and tangible way. We're back at it here in midweek with our lesson in knowing Jesus, and we're going to be, you can see here on the screen, on lesson 3. I'll send this PDF out through a ministry platform, which is the web-based email that you get. But I want to go over it with you just briefly here. So this section of scripture is on Jesus and his disciples walking through the grain fields, picking grain. The Pharisees confronting them with working on the Sabbath, and then Jesus declaring that he is Lord of the Sabbath. And so there's a few different aspects I think you can handle here. Is one, from the side of the Pharisees, how it is a tendency of man to create more rules, and which is often equated with religion, but their rules probably at one time were intended for a good purpose. God created the Sabbath. He lived the Sabbath on the first creation week, and then he instituted it as a law in the Ten Commandments to keep the Sabbath day holy. And maybe man thought it was necessary to add all these extra layers to make sure that people obeyed. And that is typically the problem, is that the gospel addresses the heart. And once a heart is transformed and the mind is renewed, we willingly want to obey God's commandments. But when we're dealing with carnal people whose hearts aren't fully transformed, we think we can control things by creating deeper and more broad rule sets, and therefore ensuring that people are faithful to God. And that often results in religion that has the opposite effect by pulling us away from God. A lot of practical applications, I think, in parenting in here as well, is that we need to get our kids and their hearts connected with Jesus, and then the law makes sense. But if we just create a bunch of law and we're dealing with lawbreakers, we're just going to be frustrated because the lawbreakers are going to keep breaking the laws. And we make more stringent rules because we're sick of law breaking, and then we create, hypocrites, people who act one way but live another way. And I think Jesus here demonstrates that there was a purpose for the Sabbath. There's a reason why God created the Sabbath, and it was for our benefit. And it would be wise of us and prudent of us to consider the Sabbath and the benefits it has towards us. God wanted us to rest. I think amazing. If it was a man-made religion, rest would never be one of the 10 commandments in the Decalogue, right? But God, in his wisdom, created and commanded a day of rest. So much so that the nation of Israel was commanded to rest every 7 years. Can you imagine? Like if you worked 6 years and on the seventh year you were to let everything grow fallow, that God promised on the 6th year to give you an abundance of resource so that you could actually take the 7th year off. And we know Israel never did that. And I do know this for certain. God never lies according to his promise. So my assumption is that every 6 years they had a bumper crop and their livestock produced immensely. And then they worked on the 7th year. And that whole Babylonian captivity for 7 years, 70 years, is because for 490 years, not once did they observe a 7th year rest. So if you divide 490 by 7, you get 70. So God said, you owe me 70 years of rest, and he sentenced them to Babylon. What God commands us to rest and why is probably one of the most important things to consider, because we as people don't rest. We are busy by nature. We fill our schedules. And I think that's the heart of what Jesus wants us to look at this week, is just to bring to the students' attention. Their families keep them busy. They keep themselves busy. over Suncoast, rest is not on their number one priority list. They probably came home today a complete car wreck. School probably unproductive today. Many of them probably got sick for lack of rest. So given the opportunity, we are not creatures who tend towards rest. And God said, I made rest for your benefit. So something to consider. I'm not going to go over the entire lesson here in this video, but check out what you can see here on the PDF. And yeah, that will be sent out. Look forward to seeing you Wednesday night. And hopefully carrying on with the momentum gained by Suncoast and the students' excitement to be in community and to worship Jesus again. So see you tomorrow night.